Hello everybody and welcome back to another CV Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be getting into is building the weapon effects so we know whenever we're firing. So if I start firing now, we are going to register the hit whenever we hit the enemy, but it's not going to be visually showing the player that we are actually fighting. So for that to happen, we're going to go ahead and add a weapon shake and a sound effect whenever we fire. Eventually, we might add in some sort of particle effect like a muzzle flash or something like that. But for this tutorial, we're not going to worry about that. So to keep it simple, we're going to first go over into our scene view. And we need to adjust a couple things from our previous tutorial. Now in our previous tutorial, we had our depth camera and our weapon holder lined up pretty much with our FPS character. I found this was a major issue though whenever you ended up running up against an enemy, because what would happen is the raycast would shoot past the enemy and it wouldn't actually interact with the enemy. So you could just simply adjust it back a little bit and you'll be alright. Okay, so once you have that adjustment fixed, go ahead and select your weapon, then go over to your assets folder, find an empty spot. Let's go and zoom that in real fast. And we're going to right click, we're going to create a folder, and we're going to call this animations. We're going to go inside this folder, we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call that weapons. Go inside there, and then find your animation folder. Now, if you don't have this folder, that's very easy to get. All you need to do is go over to your Windows, find animations, and then you'll find the animation tab right there. Make sure to reselect your weapon and then press create animation. Normally it'll appear wherever your previous open folder was. You can easily change that folder if you want to. I'm going to give it a name, of course, and I'm going to call this the HW_shooting. Now normally you would see somebody make an idle animation and a shooting animation, and I'll show you the reason why in a second. So for us to be able to add in the rotation properties to be able to make it look like it actually is shooting, I'm going to select the record button. From here I'm going to press 0 or 1 on the x-axis and then change it to 0. Then I'm going to go over to the 10-second mark, change it to 1, then change it back to 0. This way, it saves as an animation of 0. For the 5-second mark, we're going to set the x-axis to a -10. So now, if I press play, you're going to notice that we now have the ability to fire. Okay, I'm going to hit Control S, and then we're going to go over to the Animator tab. You find that inside the same Windows, Animations, Animator. So we're going to go inside there, and you'll notice we only have one state made for us. So we want to create a default state or an empty state, which gives us the ability to work with our, our base setup. So whatever this weapon is looking like in the game right now, that's what our default state is going to look like, because it doesn't have any animations that are changing its initial values. So go over here, make sure that that is set to nothing. If you do have an idle animation and all, feel free to put that there. We're going to right click that, and we're going to set as layer default state. Then we're going to make two transitions, one to shooting and one from shooting. Now we need to be able to determine how we are firing. So for this, make sure to go over to the parameters tab and add a parameter of boolean. We're going to call this is falling. Now make sure that you do keep in mind how you spell this, because whenever we write up the script for this, it needs to be identical. Alright, so reselect your transition from default to shooting. Add that condition is falling is equal. Oh shoot, it's not is falling. Lord have mercy. Let me change that. So right click or double click it, and we're going to change it to is firing. There we go. So make sure to select your transition is firing is equal to true and has exit time is equal to false. Now from is shooting to default, select that transition, is firing is equal to false, has exit time off, and we're going to set the fixed duration to a 0.1. Okay, cool. Now we have the ability to shoot. The last thing we need to do here in Unity is we need to deselect that, of course. Come over here to the Component tab after you select your weapon, and we're going to add an audio source. I'm going to change the volume down to a maybe a 0.25. We're going to change play on awake as false, and we need to add some form of SFX audio. You can make your own if you want, or you can find some assets. And of course, I'm going to be leaving a link to this asset pack, which is like a sci-fi sound effect pack. I believe it's like 19 bucks or so, give or take, but I mean, it's completely up to you guys. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and drag in one of these. Boom. And we can change this at any time if we want to. Okay, so we now have our audio source, we have our animator, and we have our weapon controller script. If you don't have this script, make sure to go to the previous tutorial and pick up that script. I'm going to double click this weapon controller, and we're going to edit a couple things. So give yourself some space at the top, and we're going to add two variables. One is going to be an animator called weapon shake, and one is going to be an audio source, which is going to be called the SFX. Now we need to cast these objects, so we're going to say void start. We're going to say weapon shake is equal to get component animator. Then we're going to do the same thing for our SFX. So we're going to say SFX is equal to get component audio source. Boom. Okay, so we need to be able to activate the weapon shake whenever we fire, and when we release the fire, we can go ahead and change that again. Now I could set this up as its own individual boolean, but for now, we're just going to do it this way. So I'm going to say weapon shake dot set bool, and here's where we're going to be getting that boolean parameter that needs to be spelled exactly identical, so just make sure you're doing that. And we're going to be setting this to true inside of this on button down. Copy that, go into our on button up, paste, set this to false, and that's done. Now for our sound effect, we want to be able to apply it every single time we fire, so we're going to put this right here inside the shoot function. So sfx.play and save. So now we're officially done with that. We can go back into Unity, let it compile, and then we'll be ready to work on it. Okay, so we're going to go over to our game view, hit Control S to be able to save, gonna hit play, and whenever we fire, you'll see us able to actually shoot with a sound and of course with our animation. Let's go ahead and change that down a little bit. So now the player knows that we are actually firing. So that's awesome. Alright, I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, check out some of my other videos. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those into the comment section below. If you have an idea or a concept, maybe even a mechanic that you want to add into this sort of game, please also leave those into the comment section below, and I'll be happy to get to them as soon as possible. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.